Okay, you read the title. I know what you're thinking. Two Shapiros in a row. Well, I just couldn't resist. I'll do it quick, I promise. But with that said, hello everybody and welcome to the January 22nd, 2019 edition of the Ephrom Josine Show. I am your host, Ephrom Josine. I'm taking these headphones off now. So I was on Twitter and I saw this column by Ben Shapiro for National Review. I know I covered him yesterday too, but I just couldn't resist. And to be fair, those actual events occurred like 4 days apart. No one expects the secular Inquisition. I could not resist but say it like that. Sorry. Maybe me and him are just both Monty Python fans. You see, we at least agree on that. We're entering the age of mainstream anti-religious bigotry. Mind you, 70% of Americans still identify as, I believe, Christian, or at least some form of religious. And, like what, 1 in 5 of the population is openly atheist? 1 in 5. I'm scared. Oh no. Now, however, bigotry with regards to... We're cutting out a lot of the meat here. Or a lot of the fat here. We're just getting to the meat. Bigotry with regards to religion has been directed by secular Americans. Haven't you been saying this for years? In fact, didn't your book that came out like 5 years ago talk about this? Against religion itself. Those who abide by traditional Judeo-Christian notions of sin have been targeted for destructive, deemed unworthy of private choice, let alone a role in public discussion. Yeah, and anyone who's attempted to do that, the anti-theists have failed completely. Pence is still vice president. You mentioned that in this column. This week provided ample examples. First, there was the full-scale media assault on Karen Pence, the wife of Vice President Mike Pence. Yeah, if we were doing that, how is Pence vice president? Karen committed the unforgivable sin of going back to work at a Christian school at which she had taught art for 12 years. Okay, that one I'm going to need a citation for. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'd like a source. That Christian school had a rather typical policy under which parents and students were to sign a pledge not to engage in sinful behavior. Quick question, why does it matter whether or not the parents have? I get the kids, but why the parents? Which, under traditional Christian definition, include premarital sex, which I'm sure they all listen to, extramarital sex, homosexual activity, and transgender self-identification, among others. Okay, homosexual activity is a little bit different than homosexual identification, I'll give you that. It's a little better. Still not much, but okay. And they have every right to oppose those standards, and then we have the right to say those are really stupid standards, and no one's actually living up to those. The school agreement explains that admission may be refused or revoked if the parent or student are, quote, in opposition to the biblical lifestyle the school teaches. You have to obey, dang it. Mind you, Ben Shapiro is for freedom. Similar agreements exist at traditional Christian and Jewish schools across America, and no one's attacking them. Yet Pence was hit with the probable sink by the media, almost like she's at a higher role than any of the other people. I assume the school had other teachers, by the way. None of them have been hit by this. Why are you worried, is what I'm asking. With reporters expressing outrage at her intolerance. Well, again, we had expected this to be the case with Pence for a while anyway. Like, yeah. John King of CNN wondering whether her Secret Service protection could be withdrawn. The citation needed, first off. And one LGBTQ organization even sending fake children's books about a gay bunny to the school. That's called a prank. Karen Pence is present at the school, had nothing to do with public policy. She's not a public official. She's not a public official in the same way someone like Michelle Obama or Hillary Clinton were public officials. Let's be real. Her religious perspective has nothing to do with public policy. Religious people across the country differ on the role of government in American lives. The reality is many on the left were simply perturbed by the mere existence of the religious Christians attending religious schools. No one has anything against that. That perturbation I'm very bad at reading today. Manifested, that one I should have known, itself once again in another manufactured media outrage, this time concerning the Cavington Catholic High School. The entire mainstream media apologized for that, for the record. Or at least CNN did, and that's the only thing you've mentioned so far specifically throughout this column. This controversy was manufactured on both sides, although the right didn't start manufacturing it until later to give them credit. So I'm going to skip this part. You got anything else for me, Ben? Anti-religious bigotry has hit the mainstream, particularly among Democrats. Senator Kamala Harris declared her candidacy for president this week, just after attending the discredited judicial candidate Brian Bridge, I have no clue how to pronounce that, by asking him about his membership in the Catholic Knights of Columbus, a group in which the Democratic incumbent John F. Kennedy have held membership. In which Democrats, including John F. Kennedy, have held membership. Wow, your views are the exact same as someone who died, what is it now, 66 years ago? Congratulations. I do agree with you, though, that Kamala Harris should not have questioned his Catholicism as much as she should have questioned his views that he had because of that Catholicism. There's a fine line there. For instance, asking whether or not he would uphold previous abortion rulings is different from going, "Are you a Catholic?" That's completely related to me voting yes or no. In fact, I think Tulsi Gabbard has walked that fine line great. Just 5 years ago, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo suggested that pro-lifers weren't welcome in New York. Wait, I thought you said at your speech during the March for Life that the pro-life movement was not religious. Interesting. So you lied to the March for Life. Wow, just wow. In fact, Representative Dan Crenshaw, who is my favorite joke among the Republican Party, recently called the media not covering March for Life fundamentally anti-Christian. Okay. In 2015, Hillary Clinton stated that, quote, "Deep-seated cultural codes, religious beliefs, and structural bases have changed based on the need for liberal views of conduct." During the 2016 election, WikiLeaks released emails showing that John Podesta had agreed with 2012 push against a Middle Eastern dictatorship in the Catholic Church. I don't know much about that story, so I'm going to let that pass. And I'm just going to end it with this line: nobody expects the secular Inquisition. Okay, you know what? Shapiro 2 days in a row. This took longer than I expected. I'll give you guys another extra, how's 5-10 minutes sound for today's episode? So first off, I woke up today and saw just Twitter had everybody's head exploding, which normally happens. And then I saw the Supreme Court trending. Now, why is this? Oh boy. Supreme Court revives transgender ban for military service. They're also about to hear a gun rights case, but we're not going to talk about that just yet. We'll talk about that when we actually hear the case. Yes, the Supreme Court has determined the ban on transgender military service to be constitutional. I don't get this. Quite frankly, I'm sorry, I just don't get this. I get the argument that, oh, they have a mental disability and therefore they shouldn't be able to serve. However, we have no evidence gender dysphoria gets in the way of military service. Until that evidence can be found, you have successfully basically just declared these people not worthy of military service. And may I remind you, military service gives people a special class in society. So why shouldn't they be allowed to join it and join that special class? Because gender dysphoria, as we know, is caused from birth. It's a birth defect, genetic issue. It's a very complicated brain issue. I've explained it a few times to the show before. You could just look back at the archives. So, why not let them serve until you can find a reason not to? That's how freedom works. You don't ban something until you find a reason to allow it. You allow something until you find a reason to ban it. But I didn't have much to say on that one, just wanted to get that out there. Anyway, I'm not personally a fan of Kamala Harris. I want to make that clear. You guys know that. However, it seems like Fox is trying to get her into their first big controversy of presidential campaign. This is from Tomi Lahren, who, if you do not know, is basically just a younger version of Ann Coulter. Now that Kamala Harris is running for president, will she explain why she attempted to cover up years of child exploitation at the hands of the Catholic clergy? I personally was not aware Kamala Harris was the Pope. I would like to thank Tomi Lahren for informing me that. That was very interesting news. I'd also like to point out how it's not the fault of the clergy who molested the children, it's the fault of Kamala Harris. Okay, one more piece of news. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I just got in the habit of doing that. Who broke C-SPAN records recently by being one of the highest rated things ever seen on C-SPAN with her first congressional speech, recently decided to shine some more light on another important issue. This time it's, of course, climate change. In which she said that we'd all basically be dead in 12 years if we don't do anything about climate change. Of course, it's not that simple, but she had to simplify it for television news, which I don't blame her. That's something you kind of gotta do, quite frankly. Now, of course she didn't literally mean the world's gonna die, or we're all gonna die and the world's gonna end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. She's, however, saying that the world will basically be really screwed up in 12 years, which the evidence points to. The entire Middle East will be flooded, wars will take place over water, quite a bit of the world's landmass will just be uninhabitable, specifically in the Middle East. I mean, it's hot there now, it's going to be like, whoa. The Arctic ice is going to be gone. We're currently seeing Arctic ice melt. Sea levels will rise. Droughts will increase. Flooding will increase. Natural disasters will increase greatly. There will be a Syrian refugee crisis. There will be an entire Middle Eastern refugee crisis, for that matter, the likes of which none of us have ever seen in 2100. These are all just accepted scientific facts. The first paper to ever figure out that CO2 caused what we now know as global warming and or climate change happened around the 1700s. 300 or so years later, there are still people who deny it. At this point, it's about as well established as gravity. Anyway, I'm Ephrom, and good night.